Hopefully over the course of the last release, users have been able to get used to the Alt-V viewport adjustment system, where you can just adjust your viewport and rotate it around while also pressing X and S and A in order to switch through your environments. On top of that, you can also press plus and minus and the arrow keys in order to change it. You can press X in order to adjust your strength, opacity, rotation, and blur if you're using 2.83 and later. This has been expanded multifold in the later versions. However, before we continue, I just want to make sure that what I'm about to discuss is basically custom HDRI support. So instead of just loading all my favorite HDRs inside of Blender, I went through and searched for what's called the ENVs, which are these low-res JPEGs of the environments that I've collected over the years. And I grabbed all the smallest ones that were environments and just put them in a folder and used those, because using full-size HDRs turned out to be slightly detrimental to the performance of the tool and possibly could result in crashing. So I'm just letting you know that you can actually go on sites like SIBL, download their HDRs, and there's always an ENV that's able to be used for things like LookDev adjustment. So without further ado, let's continue. Of course, we'll just minimize Blender, and under my Blender is another Blender, because that's just how I roll. Over here I'm using the Moto theme, and if we go to lights, you can see that I actually installed all those small JPEG images as HDRs. So that means that if I were to press Alt-VV, I can jump into LookDev mode, and when I press X, I'm able to jump through all of the custom HDR environments, which was a very popular request at the time that this was initially created. So there's just something very relaxing about switching through environments and just pressing X and just moving your mouse back and forth and just seeing your roll, kind of like a commercial in action. But I'm happy to announce that this has finally been added. It was something that was kind of long requested since the beginning. However, the first step was definitely being able to scroll through environments in general. So I'm very proud of Lou for being able to finally pull off this accomplishment. Over the course of this release, it was fun to open up old files and just kind of jump things into render and just see how things turned out. So, we look at LookDev, looks kind of terrible. We go to render mode, and of course we're in cycles because cycles was the thing back in the day. But if we just jump this over to Eevee as well, we see that this is kind of the result that we have so far. And if we jump over to LookDev, this is what we have so far. So nothing wrong with that. However, I do love being able to press Alt-V and then V again, and then switching out the environments till I find something I like, and then wondering, something's missing from the way the shading is looking, and then pressing W in order to jump to EVHQ, and then seeing, all that local reflection goodness instead of having to go into preferences and turn that stuff on. So once I have something I like here, I can press R, click, and this is my render result when I jump over to the render side, aside from the blur and the depth of field, which continues to drive me crazy. Every time I look at it from the jump, I'm like, oh man, I wish I could just really render LookDev. But just something about LookDev just reminds me of a photo shoot from school, and I just can't stop just pressing Alt-V, V, and then W to jump it to LQ and HQ. That is pretty much what it looks like with all the bells and whistles turned off if I wanted things to be fast on the performance. And then W if I really want to jump those settings up. My settings are at 2048 because I really don't want to crush it too bad. But it is nice being able to see what kind of render results I'm getting just by playing with the LookDev and just jumping it over without having to do